Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Scare Factor podcast. For those of you that don't know who we are the Scream Teams for thescarefactor.com. Our goal is to help haunt goers have the best experience possible while visiting haunted houses. We aim to do so by sharing our experience and knowledge with customers and haunters alike. My name is Tyler. I'm joined tonight by my wife, Nora, and teammate. We are Team Zombillies here in Indiana. We are also joined by Brian with Team Skelegore from New York. Everybody say hi, Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
And we also have Tiffany with Team Terror Techies from Washington. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi,
Tiffany.
All right, so before we get started, everybody please take a moment to subscribe, and if you feel so inclined, leave us a comment and or a review. All that stuff really helps the algorithms know that we're doing a good job and that you like the show. All right, well, today's show is about pet peeves, actors, and staff. We polled you guys over the past week or so ago asking what is something that an actor or staff member has done at a haunted house that just annoyed the crap out of you. And we were pretty excited to see all the responses coming in. Kind of surprised how many different responses there were, and it was just cool to see you guys engaging with us that way. But so today we're going to go over a lot of those. We're going to also introduce some of the ones that we have that we did not see come through in the comments and such. And then towards the end, we will talk about some of the ones that we saw coming in from haunters and people from within the industry that they have certain aggravations that they have amongst themselves. So, yeah, I guess without further ado, we will just get right into it. We did kind of break them up and group them into different categories, if you will. And one of the first ones we were going to talk about is cell phones in haunted houses, actors using cell phones. And the first one, it reads this way. It says, line entertainers creating their own Instagrams and TikTok posts on their phones or using their phones in general while inside or outside the attraction.
Yeah. That's a no-go unless the haunt has authorized it.
Right.
Yeah, and we've all probably seen this a lot, but the one that comes to mind with me that we saw at a haunt a couple of years ago was when we come up on a chainsaw brute that was chasing the group in front of us, and he turned around to come back, and he looked at Tyler and I and said, hang on a second, walked over to like a chair in the middle of his scene, picked up his cell phone, changed the music to a different song, and then went about his merry day. And it was like, okay, that was the most interesting cell phone usage we've seen in a live show. Other than, walking into a room and somebody's on their phone, and then they quickly hide it like, oh, you didn't see that. Oh.
Yeah, they were clearly playing the music for that scene from his cell phone. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, it stopped playing. Let's fix that.
I have walked into a scene and their actors, not technically within the scene, so think about like an outdoor trail sort of thing, and there's an actor off to the side smoking a cigarette, playing with his phone, and it's like, you're obviously an actor because you're in the get-up, you got the costume and the makeup and the fake blood and all the stuff, and he's just kind of sitting there playing with his phone, smoking a cigarette, and this was before I started reviewing with the Scare Factor, but I did leave a review on that haunt's Facebook page, and they did not like it. They didn't like anything I had to say, but,
Right. The next one that was brought up to us was disappearing. So actors leaving their spots for various reasons where customers can see them too. And Tiffany made a good point that a good exception to this would be an emergency situation. But she said that she had also seen a lot of random scene abandonment herself. Actors leaving and just purely going home. So as customers, when we're going through a haunt and we just see these obvious dead spaces, a lot of times that probably can be because somebody left, or they're using the porta potty, or they're out checking their phone, or something besides in their spot. Actors wandering throughout the inside of the haunt outside their own spaces and scenes. So we've seen just random actors and actresses like walking through the haunt in the opposite direction of us. We can tell where they were supposed to be once they get to their scenes, but they just walk right past you, not saying a word, and you're just like, where are they going? What are they doing?
Why
Yeah.
didn't they scare me? Yeah, or even try? Yeah. That one's kind of tough, the whole disappearing part, because you don't know if somebody's supposed to be there or not if there's nobody there. Like if you just walk into a scene and it's just totally blank and empty. I mean, yeah, you're going to get some awkwardness, like, okay, something should be going on, but yeah, some places it's hard to tell if it's intentional dead space or if somebody's supposed to be there and they just walked out, but it's still not generally not good either way.
Yeah, so one of the things that you kind of would like experience the most, like I've experienced it going through a haunt as like a patron, I've experienced it like working, it's exactly like what you're explaining is you don't necessarily know the story as into like, oh, there was an emergency before me. But probably the number one thing that I can remember, and even something that sticks out to us, like when we go through and review, is if you don't have actors in scenes, you don't have actors in scenes for whatever reason, right? You could have 60 actors working that night, but if none of them pop out because the timing is off or whatever, it's going to feel like you have no actors.
Right.
And there could be a lot of reasons, like what's happening. Like it could be actors on breaks. It could be, again, an emergency situation happened just before. You just have really bad luck while you're going through, but it's hard as like a customer, you know, like to kind of like justify that or just be like having all that exceptions, particularly if you're like, wow, I only had the person in like the third room and the last room pop out at me and then all the rest of it was dead. Like that really sticks out in your mind. It's really noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if there's an emergency that justifies, just random actors leaving the room, I mean, I would think that would be a little more noticeable as a customer and thus justifiable. I mean, but if like they've got something going on at home or something like that, then I would think, as a place of work or a business or something, I would like to think that the actor would have a replacement in place before they're allowed to just up and leave. But I guess it would just turn into dead space and whatever. But yeah, it's weird when, like Nora said, if you're just walking through the haunt and actors just blow by you, look at you, don't even try to scare you, and just don't even give you the time of day. It's like, okay, that was kind of weird, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of hard or like peculiar or whatever, again, because I've done both, right? Like, so I've definitely worked for haunts, but then I've also like attended a lot of haunts. And there's just things that happen, like even from the behind the scenes, like stuff that you wouldn't get as an actor. Like we had actors just peace out, like disappear, like not tell anyone on staff, not anything. They just gone.
Right.
And it was like my job to corral them. So I think I've seen everything that could possibly happen of why people would disappear, or like they would disappear completely like one night. And then it's like, okay, well, they just straight up abandoned not only their position and their job, like they went home with costume and stuff like that, but they would come back the next day and nothing happened, like no explanation and nothing. And so it was like really kind of, again, weird or disarming. And then again, working at a haunt, like trying to explain this to a customer, that doesn't translate. It'd be like, yeah, I have no idea where that person is.
Right.
Right.
It's horrible. It's horrible to say that. But again, it is one of those things that definitely, like, even if you do have all your actors there and they're in the right positions, if that timing is off, they might as well not be there almost, because to a customer, for them going through the second or the couple minutes that they're going through, I mean, like timing is everything.
It is. Mm-hmm. And another point we had under disappearing was that actors or actresses following and focusing on one scared group and missing others as they are not able to reset in time. And we've seen this a lot as well. We've talked about it before on the podcast, where we went to a haunt and Lauren, a group in front of us, was terrified of several specific clown characters, and these clown characters literally followed Lauren all the way through the entire haunt.
everybody in the haunt knew who Lauren was by the time we got it out there, because all the actors were just shouting her name, Lauren, and just tormenting the crap out of this poor girl. And yeah, but at the same time, we were all going through too, trying to get scared, and there's no actors because everybody thought Lauren was the only one in the haunt, apparently.
And we've also seen a scene where we went through Freddy Krueger's boiler room. There was no actor in there, and then we found him like 3 scenes later following a group.
Mm-hmm. Coming back into his scene, he's like, oh yeah, you're not where you're supposed to be. Like there was an obvious Freddy scene 3 scenes ago, and you're looking around the corner trying to figure out where he's at, and nope, he's not there. 5 minutes later, oh, there's Freddy.
Kind of going along with your examples, like I remember it seems to be like the screamers, like if there's a group in front of you that has like amazing reactions, yeah, it's just kind of a bummer again as like a customer going through. It's like, wow, you obviously want to play with them, cool, and then you kind of like don't feel the love,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little, takes you a little bit more out of that suspension of disbelief when you're, and that also indicates that there's other groups in the haunt with you. So it's a line flow issue. It's a suspension of disbelief issue because you're aware that there's other people going through and have survived what you're about to experience. And yeah, it just totally kills the vibe.
Well, and it's not cool to try to take the scare from another actor. So, like in Freddy's instance, he went through 3 scenes taken away from the other 3 actors that were in those areas or more.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the points down in the haunt actor pet peeves. From within the industry, they get aggravated when actors steal each other's scares. So yeah. But one of the next groups that we had of responses was we titled this one "Callback Lines." Whenever an actor would say "get out" or "you must leave" or "fresh meat," "boo," all the classic lines that are just way overused, that can get kind of aggravating sometimes.
Well, and customers notice it too. Like, your average haunt goers notice that stuff, and they're like, come on. And the get out thing, most customers are paying customers. Why would you tell somebody to get out right after they paid to get there?
We're paying to get in. We don't want to get out,
Yeah, and I just want to point out that where I worked, if you said "get out" or "boo," you were fired. Full stop.
Most places are like that.
Full stop. You did it one time, you were done. Fired. Goodbye.
That's a good policy to have in my book. Another one that kind of gets on our nerves is asking questions without the ability to follow up with a response. Like if an actor says, "Want to play?" We're like, "Sure, what are we going to play?" And they just stare at you like, "Oh my God, I've never had somebody respond to me before." You always got to have that follow-up response. "Where are you going?" is another one. Like, we don't know. We're just following through here. Where are we supposed to go?
Well, and this one's really hard too because, coming as a former actor, that right there gives me the invitation to engage with the actor that's asking these questions. And sure, they're cliche and, "Oh, do you want to play?" Like, no, I don't really want to play because I have a 10-year-old at home that is always asking me, "Do you want to play?" So,
the horror.
Yeah, right. That's a lot scarier. Listen, if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. And especially if you have girls, you know what I'm talking about. So, that's a lot scarier than whatever you can put in a haunted house for me. But, that, for me, gives me the invitation. I'm like, okay, I'm going to engage in a back and forth with you. And so it's a 50-50, right? There's been times where I hear this, like, "Where are you going?" or "Do you want to play?" or whatever. And I respond back to it, and they don't really have they don't know how to continue that pattern. Whereas 50% of the time, I'll get a question and it'll be cliche, like, "Where are you going?" "Oh, well, see, I was trying to find the exit, but I think I'm heading back towards the entrance. I got a map here. Could you help me out with that? I'm really trying to find my way out of this place." And it's really fun if you show them a map of a different haunt.
Right?
Brian goes prepared.
Yeah, but sometimes they do have a good pattern. Like, they have a good response to to have after that, and then they can continue that pattern for at least a few minutes.
Oh yeah, having that invitation to have that interaction with them is fantastic, and as long as they have that follow up where they're able to go back and forth with you, oh yeah, that's wonderful. But yeah, I think this one's more about the ones that are like, oh, they're not able to have that banter with you. They just lock up and a little bit of stage fright. I'm not sure what it is, or lack of rehearsing or character development, that kind of thing. But
one of the things that like we would really highly enforce or like work on during like actor training is instead of like saying like want to play or where you're going, instead of asking questions, asking like statements or like stating statements. So like, I'm going to play with you or let's play instead of asking the questions. One, it kind of gets more that like aggro, like monster character to kind of come around of like, no, you're going to do this. And there isn't necessarily like kind of like an option or that callback to be able to like, you know, like, you want to play? No. And then them just walking out the scene. Like if you have like kind of the reaction is like, but I don't want to play or whatever, you kind of put the customer in a different, what is that?
Different mindset.
Kind of a different mindset or like a different position where they're not really being asked like a yes, no question, that could just fall flat. Like they're actually being like, there's a statement and it's like, no, this is going to happen. So instead of like, where are you going? It's like, come here. You feel a lot like, Scorpion.
Get
when you
over
start
here.
saying stuff like that. Right. But it also really works depending on your character or the characters. Like if it's an aggressive character, like, yeah.
Right. Yep, I remember, like, we had one little girl, she's like, want to play? And me and Tyler are like, yeah, what are we playing? She's like, hide and seek, and she took off running as fast as she could. And she really was hiding, waiting for us to come around the corner, and she scared us, so bravo.
So, like, and it's
Nice.
different, though, with, like, when a kid asks you, like, do you want to play? Like, they really do want to play, right? They don't want to be working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'd rather play games.
Right.
I will say at KO's escape room, which Nora and Tyler, both of you need to find the time to get your butts up here because the show is so good.
I know.
And they make little tweaks every time they open it up, so you know it is a different show every time. But you know, because the last two times I went, they had made a few little tweaks and it wasn't totally the same. You know, it was mostly the same. But anyway, the actress they have in their final puzzle, if there's more than one of you, she'll pull one of you off to the side and tell you, like, you're going to watch TV with her. And it's her favorite show. And she can keep this going with or without you for probably an hour.
Oh my.
She probably could, but, like, that also speaks to how good of an actor she is.
Absolutely.
You know, but, like, the last time I went, I took a friend of mine, and you know, she pulled him off to the side while I was busy doing the puzzle, and she was like, do you want to watch TV with me? And he's like, sure. And she's like, this is my favorite show. And she's going on and on and on. This would have been the same show. Stick her in a closet, lights off, nobody around. It's the same thing. I'm sure of it.
That'd be creepy.
Yes. But, you know, like, they have their best actors in this escape room, so...
So another pet peeve that we came across was the actress that just screams over and over and over again. No reason, apparent reason. Just an ear piercing.
Oh, you mean Lucinda? Lucinda's very sweet. Listen, Lucinda is very nice, okay?
Lucinda,
yes. I worked with a girl at Frightmare that was her whole bit, was she could just scream really, really loud.
And I think that's okay if you do it, like, once and catch everybody off guard and then you stop.
Like, yeah, like, you'd walk through her scene and she was, like, you didn't see her and then you'd hear her before you could see her.
We went
but,
to...
Like, it wasn't like you're walking through, she's just, like, constantly screaming at you.
We have seen that plenty of times. Enough to where I've even put my hands on my ears. Like, come on, stop.
Oh, no, Lucinda will cause hearing damage.
We went to one, and Tyler's dad was with us, and his name's Keith, and this actress kept coming up behind him throughout the entire 15-minute haunt or so. And I mean, she was screaming Keith to the top of her lungs right behind him, and it would catch him off guard. Maybe like 3 times out of 50. But it just kind of got repetitive and annoying after the first, like, 5 times. You're like, okay, go back somewhere else and do that to somebody else. But she did not.
Yeah, I can see where if they've got a little bit of dialogue, like maybe leading up to a scream, also, like, you know, like your responses to some of the banter that's going on are not what they would consider favorable, so that aggravates them, and yeah, they let out a scream, or if they vice versa, let out a scream right off the bat, just a short one to try to get the startle scare, and then start going into the rest of their bit. But yeah, the ones that just totally rely on an ear-piercing scream, I think that's the ones that are particularly annoying.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned it before with the other one. There's also just nothing to grab onto, right? So if you just have an actor screaming at you, you don't really learn why. You don't really learn much about who they are. There's no story development. It's, you have people screaming at you. And if it's like a actor that, like, I don't know, I've been through ones, like, I can remember one where it was one of the dark room haunts, and we talked about that in other episodes, where it's literally just a dark room, very minimal sets, and you have actors kind of around on the edges. The whole entire setup was you would have people kind of come out of those edges and just scream, but that's it. And it was really kind of, it was, I guess, supposed to be unnerving because you just didn't know when that was going to happen. But if you get used to that, or you kind of like scab yourself over again as like a customer, it's like, okay, well, cool. I don't have anything to focus on. I don't have a character that I can figure out. There's no story. There's nothing to grab on here. So your mind kind of gets bored very quickly.
Yeah, like, are you in pain? Are you mad that I'm here? Did someone just kick your dog? What the heck's going on here? Like, why are you screaming?
Yeah.
So the next one, I think the last one in this section, is when actors just get in your face and rely so heavily on volume of voice and, like, just cussing in your face instead of actually acting skill.
Yeah, and this I think is less a problem of just a few bad actors that you're going to find inevitably. And this I think is more a problem of bad direction and just poor management within haunts, right? And one of the things I had said before we started recording today was that so many of these things that we're going to talk about can be avoided by haunts that interview and audition in an effective manner. And if your cast and, you know, your ancillary staff, your management and everybody else treats it like the job that it is, you'd avoid so many of these things, right? Because, like, if I went to work, now, if I go to work and I say some certain 4-letter words, my direct supervisor is probably not going to really care because she says them too. But, you know, most places that you work, it's not a good look, right? It's not professional. And, like, that definitely extends to the haunt world. Like, you could get away with saying things in a haunt that you can't get away with saying at the office, right? You know, you can say things like, you can tell your customers, like, I'm going to shred you limb from limb and eat your intestines. And, like, that's a good thing to say in a haunt. But, like, you can't tell your customers at the grocery store that you're going to tear them apart anymore.
Right.
It's just, it's not a good look, right? So, you know, there is a trade-off there.
I don't know why.
I mean, I would just look at him and laugh, but that's me. But that's what I do in the haunt, too. I'm like, well, then do it. Let's see it. But, yeah, I mean, it's a haunt, so.
All right, well, yeah, let's go.
All right, yeah, sounds fun.
I'm going to make jump ropes with your intestines. Uh-huh. Okay.
Cool.
But see, like, to me, that would be demi-creative at that point. Like, I don't know. I would just start collecting those phrases in my head, being like, yes, I'm going to use that one later. I think that's also just who I am as a human being. It just doesn't, even if it wouldn't make sense in context, because you guys were talking about grocery stores and stuff. I was like, if my cashier said that, like, I would have mad props for them. I would have a new best friend.
That is a creepy thing to say to somebody, but you just don't need to, like, yell it at them, because that's creepy enough on its own that all you gotta do is say it. Heck, you can probably even walk up to them and barely whisper it in somebody's ear, and it would be just as creepy.
Right, and that's the nuance part of it too, right? Because, like, do you want creepy or do you want aggressive, right? Aggressive is like a big character that's, you know, kind of bearing down on you physically, and they're telling you, like, I'm going to use your intestines for a jump rope. But, like, if you have a small female character, like, she can't really get away with that. Just physically speaking, she's not intimidating when she says that. But if she comes up from behind you and whispers that in your ear, it's a lot scarier.
It is, yeah. First you turn around and go, wow.
If she can sneak up behind you, what else can she do? You don't know if she's going to be able to rip your intestines out or not, you know? So.
But that's also my favorite with, like, line actors and stuff. I love when they, like, mess with people by whispering. Particularly, like, because I love watching, like, who they select. I like watching, you know, like, if it's within our group or the group ahead of us, like, there's always this kind of thing. It isn't, like, really, like, I pick this random person. Like, there's definitely a thought process, like, to it before they hit it. But, like, some of my favorite, like, line actors are ones that either are whisperers or they just essentially say nothing at all. And they do a whole bunch of, like, kind of gesturing and not necessarily be intimidating, just weird, unsettling.
We've got one of those around here too. Her character name's Lillian, and that's one of her kind of iconic scare techniques, really, is just to kind of stare at you from a distance and kind of give you that sly little grin, look at you out of the corner of her eye. And then as you go through the haunt, she's got all the actor passageways and stuff figured out, and, like, you know, you just saw her down at the bottom of the stairs, but you've gone upstairs now, and now she's 3 rooms ahead of you, and you're going to see her again over there too. So it's like, what? Did I just see? I know I just saw you down there. How in the hell did you get up here? Just one of those kind of things. And yeah, I would imagine that would be also equally unnerving in a queue line scenario if you're not paying attention where somebody's at, if they disappear out of sight and stuff. So one of the next groups that we have, the next group of pet peeves, is breaking character, and we can really get into some rabbit holes with this stuff. But the first one we've got is actors sitting down on the job, literally not doing anything, and or sleeping. We've seen the sleeping one before, and we've definitely caught some actors
not doing anything
off guard before, for sure.
Yeah.
See, that's the one. Not that I don't believe it, but that's actually in all of my years of haunting and even attending haunts, I have never seen somebody sleeping.
You've never seen somebody sleeping?
I was shocked. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Like, it's not one of those things of like, oh no, of course everybody's awake. But I don't know. I don't necessarily see, I mean, being an actor or even going through a haunt, like, it's a noisy place.
Right.
I just don't understand how that could happen.
Oh, it does. We've seen it, I think, at least 3 times.
Oh, wow.
One time specifically, it was a zombie, and this haunt's not open anymore, and he was in, like, a industrial computer area with, like, big, giant monitors.
Is a security room. Is a security room scene, yeah.
And he was, like, leaning up against something, like, and had his head on his hand up against... He was kind of standing, but he wasn't all the way. Like, he was...
He's, like, slouched over the keyboard, kind of like he'd been hit over the head or something. I mean, it was actually in a good enough spot where I couldn't tell if it was, like, a mannequin or a prop or something that, you know, was supposed to look dead, like he'd been attacked and he just fell over dead on top of his keyboard, but
then, when we got 3/4 of the way through the room, we watched his head slide, and he'd pick his head up and went, oh shit, and looked right at us, and we were like, oh, you were sleeping.
Busted.
Yeah, and it was loud in there, too.
Yeah, it wasn't real quiet.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like, I've been known to sleep through some pretty loud things in my life, but like to stay asleep in the middle of all of that happening, like I don't know. I on the other hand, like as an actor, I get that because you just get accustomed to the surroundings, right?
You get the drone of the haunt and the surrounding scenes and all the
Yeah, right. All the loud things that we as patrons go through, and it's all brand new to us, and it's this overload. It's a sensory overload. But like for somebody who's in there for 6 hours a night, like it's whatever. It's Tuesday
Right.
for them.
The next section is actually breaking character, which we agreed this is probably what we as Team Zombie see the most in 5 million different ways. Probably at every 1 to 4 haunts we visit. Like somebody breaks character, some way, shape, or form.
Isn't that like with our review sheet and stuff? Like, I mean, if you have actors constantly breaking character, like that would be essentially a pretty big point hit.
Yeah, it's definitely not good. Some of them, especially around us, we've gone to them for so long now that a lot of them are like, "Hi, Tyler," and "Hi, Nora," and stuff as we're going through. And that's, at least they're in some kind of their character's voice and they figure out ways to wrap it in with their little spiel. And so it's like, okay, I can tolerate that. But like, we went through one time, and I can't remember. This haunt's been open and closed several times since we started, so I can't remember right now if they're open or not. But they had a guest actor, and this actor, as we were going through his spot, he's like, didn't even do his, and like he might have popped out of his closet or something, tried to get a quick startle scare, but after that he went straight into, "Hey guys, if you want to go to a really good haunted house, go to this one down the road. It's just right over here. It's called this, and yeah, I'll be over there next week," and blah 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 blah. It's like, really,
Wow.
dude? Why not just scare us now? And it's not a.
And the chainsaw. The chainsaw was
Oh,
the
the
best
chainsaw
one
was
ever.
great.
Which-
Chainsaw was great.
I can't remember. Surely we've said this multiple times because neither of us will ever forget it. But we're walking towards the middle of a haunted trail, and this guy with a clown mask on, but like no costume, walks up to us and says, "Hey, if I get that chainsaw and start it up, will you guys run?"
Nope.
I told him to try it and find out, but he started it, and
I wouldn't even give him the dignity
I was just
of
like,
that.
wow.
I just tell him no.
The one that I probably do see the most of like breaking character and relating is if their friends go through or their family.
Yep.
That one's disheartening.
Somebody they know, yeah.
Yeah, like you guys talked about it being yourselves, and I've had that too a little bit, particularly if I was going through a haunt that I worked in previously, but it's so sad. It is so very sad, again, as a customer going through, and it's someone that they know, and so they're really, really spending more time on them. Again, it's kind of a little bit stuff of like we touched before, of they're kind of like following through their like little groups, or they just stop acting. And they just go ahead and have a conversation with their family.
What's going
yeah.
on? Hey, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I
Like,
sit
save it
behind
for
you in bio.
afterwards.
We've
Yeah.
seen one actor do that and get yelled at by the haunt owner while we were standing there, so we're like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving, you see your mom or somebody come through because, you gave them a free ticket or whatever it was. There's nothing wrong with giving somebody a little extra attention, give them a little extra energy, but like your bit has to just be good in the first place, right?
Yeah, not at the expense of surrounding groups,
Yeah.
It's like wait until after the show and hit them up and say, "Hey, did you see me? I was so-and-so," and you can do your catch-up stuff then,
Yeah. We also get that right after we leave a haunt, so you know that they're that actor on their cell phone while customers are going through.
So Tiffany's got this next one, Mark, and that's when a haunt actor like is interacting with somebody and the customer says something a little insulting or humiliating back to the actor and they take it personally.
Yeah, that one was a really huge one. Again, it kind of goes back, and why it's related to breaking character is just that I've seen it like almost destroy what an actor was going to do for like the next person. And so like if they got like the reaction that they didn't want, or they weren't scary enough. Like our team even seen it last year. Unfortunately, it was one of my team members that said something. But what they said was like, "Oh, you look like a sunflower," and you could feel the energy and everything, like from the actor. Like they did not jump out in the team behind us. Like their comment when we were passing them was like, "Oh," and it was one of those things of like, "No, use it, do something with it, be like, ah." You don't have to have it like break you. But yeah,
you could say, well, sunflowers are pretty and I'm not, or something along that line. Sunflowers are nice and shiny and I am not.
Right? Or like, have you ever seen a sunflower with a chainsaw? I don't know. Like, just go with stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get this one, though, from the actor side, because if you developed that character and you designed the look of it and you developed the whole role and everything about it, and then somebody was just like, wow, that's really dumb.
Right.
Like, yeah, it
bet, yeah.
hurts.
I mean,
Like-
customers shouldn't be dicks and even say shit like that to begin with, but it's gonna happen. Yeah.
And that's kind of
I wouldn't want somebody shitting on my character, but
yeah, and that's kind of another thing with like just in general of like a fear response, right? Like if you're, and that's kind of again what I try like to tell when I was doing like working as a tech director, but even when, you know, I'm asked for feedback and stuff like that, is just that all of those responses is still like a response, and it could be a fear response or a deflection response. Like, one that happens a lot, and actually we're going to talk about it in a second, but one that happens a lot, when I was working or going through is like, oh, your breath stinks, or, oh, you know, and if your cast is like really sensitive to that and the character breaks because of it, that really shouldn't happen. I mean, the callbacks are bound to happen. And if that's what they're focusing on, then it's mostly just like, if that's what the customers are focusing on, mostly it's just a deflection or a fear reflex, right?
Right.
And you kind of,
or they're just dicks.
I always took it as the former as opposed to the latter, but
I feel like this one's kind of hand in hand with one that we hadn't put in here. But when an actress tries to scare you and they don't succeed, so then they just stand there and break character. Like, we've had a drop panel person drop the drop panel right at both of us. We both just kind of looked at him, and he crossed his arms and made a sad face and put his head down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
Didn't even
annoying.
put the drop panel back up, just left the panel down and sulked as we walked by.
And that one, too, could just be like, maybe you weren't the first ones to have that reaction, you know what I mean? So,
right.
like, it is a little defeating when it's like, you keep doing this thing that you've been told by your acting director and by people who've been there longer than you, like, oh, this is the timing, and this is a really big effect, and this always gets good screams, and this, that, the other, and then, like, you do it, and everybody's just like, huh?
You get all excited, like, all right, this
like,
is good.
it's defeating. Yeah. Like, you get frustrated, I get that, but, like, at the same time, like, okay, this isn't working, how do I amp this up?
We had a group character one year, so I say that as in that was intentional to have, like, a wood golem, but it really wasn't. It was just their mask. It had, like, these, like, it was actually fingers, but people, how they interpreted it in the room and stuff, they're like, oh, it's like Twigs, you're Groot. And, oh my goodness, that was, like, the worst thing ever, because depending on the actor that went through, and I went through a couple times that year, and there was a different actor each night. Like, one of the actors I remember was trying to justify the fact that they were not Groot to every single person who mentioned that they were Groot. But like breaking character to do so, it's like, do I look like Groot? And it's like, apparently, yeah, or that's the thing that they're focusing on. Like, stop trying to add logic to the situation.
Right. Haunted houses aren't logical.
Right. But then, when I went through other times that year, like I was able to see different actors in that position and, like water off the duck's back. Like the group in front of us didn't mention anything about Groot, right? And even in like reviews and stuff like that, like nobody hardly ever mentioned it. But yeah, it was definitely that one that was really off-putting because it was like that's your breaking point. Like that's what stops and breaks your character. And like, I'm not playing with you guys anymore. Cool.
So the flip side of what we just talked about is when cast members will decide they're going to break character and give you their digits because they think you're really attractive, but like, let's be honest, you're probably there with your significant other, and like 90% of the time that's the case, right?
You're probably not going through a haunt trying to hook up with one of the actors. Total stranger. Somebody you don't know.
Speak for yourself.
Well,
buddy.
I'm just...
But,
I mean...
Listen, I have seen some really cute-looking actresses, and I'm just like, I'd love to get to know you better. But time and place, right?
Yeah, wait till afterwards and then pick them up in the free candy van,
Yeah, right, Yeah, you got just candy spray painted on the side of your van.
Yeah.
It's fine. But like, I've also seen the other side of that too, where it's like the patron comes through and maybe it's a fear response, or maybe they're just like feel like being stupid, or they're drunk or something, and they're just like they're trying to give you their number. They're trying to hook up with you when you're the actor. And like, that one is more weird, I think.
Yeah. I think they're all kind of weird, but yeah.
Like, that one's more weird, right? Because it's like, obviously I'm covered in blood here. I'm in costume, I'm in character, and you're trying to get, a free dinner out of me.
Right.
Like, obviously I'm not doing this for the money. So I don't know
one of
what
the
you
people
see
that give this response also said that they've seen actors give out like their business cards, but not for like a hookup, more for like follow my character page in the middle of the haunt.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. I guess like if your character is like, I guess if the character is like a seductress or something, right? And you're just being very forward with patients, like if you're in character, but you're not legitimately trying to hook up with the patrons, then there's probably a difference there. But yeah, I don't know, like at a time and place, it rarely ever works.
I mean, if they hand it to you and go, "Oh, here's the antidote to the blah 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 blah," and you look at it and you're like, "Okay, it's his business card, maybe." But yeah, kind of odd.
When you mentioned that, I just see them going through and being like, hashtag haunt name. It's just like, what?
Right. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no. Your haunt suffers severely in the review when I hear that. The day I hear that haunt is getting negative points in their staff and their cast score. That is unacceptable. Like, how do you, as a casting director, one, not be aware of that, and two, how do you allow that to continue?
Mm-hmm. I don't think we've ever been handed like a business card or anything ourselves, have we?
Yeah, I've never seen a business card come in.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I've never gotten anything like that. I've been given like props.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like, that's within character. Like, that's intended.
Yeah, and the closest thing that I ever got, and again, it wasn't actually in the haunt, and it makes sense, but they had kind of like they do it in theme parks a lot, but they take a photo of you, or they take a photo of you like around in the midway.
They give you the photo pass card, and so you can go pick up the print. No, that's an intended thing, right? Like, that's not. Yeah, the only thing I could see where it's like, if you're handing out a business card for any sort of social media, is if it's a Q actor and they're handing out business cards for the haunt, right? And it's got the socials, it's got the website, it's got whatever. It's like, hey, leave us a review on Google, leave us a review on Facebook, whatever.
But if the actor is like an independent
You know, like,
actor,
that
or
is, I guess, more
or if
acceptable. It's still kind of like, how do you do it properly without people just throwing them away?
Right.
right, yeah, but like if the actor is an independent actor, or if they're with a traveling group or something, and they're given cards for that, like they recognize you're from another haunt or something, I don't know, and
Yeah, if you're in character and you're trying to network,
you're
forget
trying to
it. You're
solicit,
done.
yeah,
I'm not hiring you.
Yeah, I don't. That's not the place to do it. Parades, sure.
Well, I could even see it happening in like the midway or just like outside, or like if
When
they
they
get
leave, maybe, but at the
Yeah.
same time, they're like chasing somebody to their car to get them to follow their Instagram when they should be entertaining the people in line. You know,
remember
I don't know.
hashtag.
We're gonna have this hashtag thing now. Oh goodness. Alrighty, the next section we have is smells. We hate to have to go over this one, but it's real. So actors smelling like alcohol or weed. You know, we've
Unacceptable.
smelled both several times now. I will tell you the weed is getting kind of hard because I think Froggies and some other scent companies might be releasing cannabis scents. So you might think the actor's high as fuck, but they're not. It's just the scent in their area, but I think we can all probably tell a difference when they get close enough to you. And the alcohol. Whew.
I mean, the fact that there's cannabis scented fog is just, I don't know. It seems not suited for a haunted house to me.
Well,
maybe I'm
I
wrong.
mean, this is kind of off topic, but why would you need that? I mean, I think we've experienced it maybe in some swamp areas and things like that, but unless you're walking through a cannabis field, why would you want it to smell like that?
Well, maybe the scene is like, a dance club or something. Maybe like what you're trying to set is a scene where people are smoking weed, but and like the smell is going to be a big part of that. So if you can replicate the smell, more points to you for bringing more realism into it without actually getting all your patrons high.
Right.
But like if you're just sticking it in the dungeon scene, like, no, I don't believe that the teenagers from the local high school snuck over here to smoke weed in this dungeon.
During live show. Mm-hmm.
Like, unless you have those teenagers strung up on the wall, and that's this picture you're trying to paint, right? Like, oh, we found some trespassers, so we chained them up. Maybe, but like, it still doesn't really follow, because by the time that they would have been caught and strung up on the wall, and then you walked through and you saw them there, like, that smell would have dissipated. Like give me a mildew smell in a fog rather than
mildew
weed.
and slaughterhouse smell. Yeah.
Oh god, yuck.
That'll set the scene.
But it really will, though, right? In a dungeon scene, think about what a dungeon smells like. It smells like damp, mildewy, like mold.
Yeah, mold, stagnant smells. Yeah.
And the next one we have is all we got for it's 2 letters, and that's BO.
Body odor.
Hey, what did I ever do to you? Oh,
Yeah.
body odor. Not
I
me.
mean,
You're in New York, we're down here in Indiana. I mean, if we're getting it from that far away.
Hey, listen. I took a shower
This
this
one?
month,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Oh, so that was only
So
like
you're-
up to 6 days ago.
So you're just now getting your protective film built back up.
Yeah, right. I mean, it takes a couple weeks for it to come back.
Gotta shit his film.
Uh-huh. It is kind of disgusting, though, when the actors walk to you, and they smell terrible.
Yeah, and this is one that I have. It's again weird because I don't personally smell it, but again, talking to other customers and reading reviews, it's a thing. Like,
It is a thing.
yeah, it's like on
Maybe
like, the
not so
back
much in
end.
Seattle where it's 50 degrees, but yeah.
Shut up! It's nice here. But yeah, it's. I know that they also make BO scents too, and I know like I could remember this one huge story, like the one that keeps popping up in my brain was the charred flesh scent. One of the actors doused themselves in it as if it was like Axe body spray. And if you've ever smelt any of those, like haunt scents, so there's like a brimstone, there's like burnt flesh, rotten flesh, any of those, it smells horrible, but it's made to smell horrible and actually what it's called, right? But it permeated the whole entire haunt. And it wasn't something that was like letting up anywhere. So like you smelt charred flesh for days. It's pretty intense. But then there's like other things that I could think of where actors specifically would eat garlic, or they would specifically eat like spicy or nasty food or something like that, so their breath would smell. If they were a close actor and kind of like a close talker or whatever, we always got called out working at an outdoor haunt for having actors have like cough drops, or we used to give them mint lifesavers, but then all of our monsters smelled like mint. And people would just complain about that. They're like, that's not scary. It's like, you can notice that. But yeah, scents do really play a huge role in like customer and patron experience as you're going through the haunt itself.
Oh, absolutely. Well, time has kind of flown by. We're getting close to an hour as it is, and we've got a lot more ground to cover. So, some of the other pet peeves that we've come across is when haunt staff. Let's see, I got to read ahead here. I didn't pregame and see what I was getting ready.
I'm highlighting the ones that we should go over here. Just the high priority ones,
Gotcha.
It seems, you know?
Okay, we'll finish this up while Brian's doing the highlighting, because he's down in the other section, the ones that we got from haunt workers. So, here, I'll hit it real quick.
Go ahead, Nora.
Pet peeves with staff is when they act like the world is ending because they're at work, not excited or grateful. I was thinking, like, sometimes you just see staff that are, like, taking your tickets, and they're like, here, you're next in line. You know, those type of staff, because we didn't get very many comments on staff themselves.
If they're not excited, it doesn't make you very excited to be there.
When an entire haunt is of one type of scare actor, so like lurkers, Tiffany made this point. It works with variety peppered in throughout, but having an entire haunt lurk of scares, it just gets kind of old. So as a cast, you guys should like aim to be different from each other. Like if you are working in the same scenes, you should, if you're zombies, that's okay, but there's also different types of zombies. So customers also don't like seeing the same thing all the time, and we score on creativity and different types of characters. Not being able to quickly identify staff that work at the haunt, except for the costumed actors. So if we are in a midway and we need help and we don't know where something is, we want to be able to point out a staff member pretty quickly. So they generally have bright shirts on that say staff on the back of them. That's a really good way to do that.
Or completely black with big white letters say staff.
Yeah. Staff coming through the haunt with blatant flashlights and clothing. We understand that you guys do need to come in and fix things, but walking right past the guests with bright lights, even towards us, or not caring that we see you at all totally, breaks the immersion in those scenes. And we've also seen people do this with cameras. And we've seen a camera crew come at us in a haunted house, and it's like, what is going on here? So that's a pet peeve of ours as well.
Yeah. Okay. So for haunt worker related, and I think Tiffany and I can unite on these ones here. Just having been former actors, showing up late. This is probably the biggest one, or not showing up at all. Not acceptable. End of story. Like, I don't even think we need to add anything to that. It's not a good look.
It's kind of the same, like I mentioned before, it's the same as having like an actor peace out in the middle of the night and just peace out. Because then all of a sudden you have customers complaining that they're not getting scared, they're not seeing any actors, and yeah, it's really hard again to justify that to a customer.
Yeah. When cast members come in thinking that more blood equals better looking, sometimes this is the case, but usually it's not. And I want to add that this extends to makeup artists that lack creativity, and they're just like, shit, I don't know, add more blood. Like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Not wearing proper clothing for the weather. If you live in a cold climate, you bundle up. If it's going to rain, you wear something that's going to be more or less rainproof. I get it. You can't always get away with it in costume, but if you're going to be outside, like, I don't know, wear boots that are waterproof. You know, wear clothes that aren't made of cotton.
You're not using logic, are you, Brian?
Yeah, right? It's kind of hard.
What, me? No, never.
It's kind of hard not necessarily, like, having proper clothing, but, like, again, seeing it from the customer's perspective. I know that I've been through haunts where a lot of your costume characters, the costumes aren't made to be built up underneath or like layered or whatever. And so then you'll see them in like street clothes, like with a hoodie or their jacket. It's cold where we are.
No, I've had to have a talk with some outdoor actors in the past about like, hey, so if it's going to rain or if it's going to be really cold, cotton is going to be your worst enemy. So, like, I don't know, invest in wool if you can. I get it. It can be expensive. But, like, polyester is also, like, an acceptable option.
Under Armour.
You know, there are other options that are far more waterproof or water resistant than 100%
At least
cotton.
faster drying.
If
Yeah.
you're out there wearing jeans, yeah, because, like, cotton is going to get wet and it's going to retain that.
So
that
ours
water,
was like
and you're gonna
even
hate it.
as detailed as like proper socks and boots. Standing outside on your feet all day in the rain and all of this stuff, like you had to like make sure you were wearing warm socks, comfortable boots that could like transverse mud. Yeah.
Yeah, if you work outside in a haunt, take tips from backpackers, because like I do a lot of backpacking and I can be in the rain for a long time without really getting very wet because of what's out there for people who do a lot of hiking. Or just talk to anybody that lives in Seattle. Like, they'll tell you how to avoid the rain.
Right.
Leaving trash, bottles of pee, and food.
I haven't heard of the bottles of pee, but
Neither have I, but like this is the second time I've heard it, and it sounds disgusting.
yeah. I mean, kudos for dedication, not wanting to leave your scene, not even for a pee break, but you got to get rid of that stuff. There's still other people that frequent that space, either during the show or in between shows. No, get rid.
And people see that, like, again, going back as a customer, like, you could tell it's trash. You could tell the Gatorade bottle doesn't belong there.
Right.
Like, it's really noticeable. So it isn't like something I've had it like kind of defended of like, well, maybe it could have been a part of the scene or you could hide it. Like, there's a lot of things that you could do, in build or in design to like be able to hide that, or just again, like, don't have it in the show, like have it way off stage or backstage, or just don't actually have it in the show, in the room, in the scene right next to you.
There's not too many scenes where a trash can is out of place. You know? Just drop it down in the trash can. Nobody will think anything about it. Reach down and get it if you need it.
The big, like gallon black, buckets was something that we used a lot, because you could kind of hide that between like a half wall or behind a pallet or something.
Sure.
And yeah, it was a trash can, but I mean, nobody's none the wiser, and it's black, so nobody's going to see it.
It's not exactly noticeable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the last ones we wanted to dig in on was dating. Now, as I've not worked at a haunt before, but I'm sure you two are seen this a couple times.
See, like, I think that's like more the weirder thing, because I have only this like very happy thing of I could tell you wonderful stories of what happened with my life in dating haunters, and it turned out really well. But I know that I'm the exception there. Like, I have seen it absolutely destroy cast. I have seen it, tear apart haunts for a whole entire season. I have seen it like spill over into like patrons or, again, working on the back end of like how you're doing scheduling. I have seen like friends blow up with each other and all of a sudden I lost 2 actors instead of, the 2 that I've hired. So I know it happens, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, because I do have that very huge bias of like, well, it worked for me. And I actually really like staffing couples. Like, I like that dynamic of having a dating couple, a friend couple, whatever your relationship is. It doesn't matter. I like having that kind of long-term endurance of people knowing each other really, really well, working in scenes together because of that. There's an accountability there. There's some good dynamic. But again, it does take really special people. It can blow up in your face very quickly. It just makes you look bad, makes your haunt look bad. Yeah. So it's hard.
Kind of a dynamic duo
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when it goes bad, it's a messy breakup, and it could go bad in
It
so
never
many ways.
not has drama.
I've done it. I've dated a fellow actor. It was fun while it lasted, but like it never ends well.
Alrighty, well, that's probably all we have time to really dig into, but I do want to buzz through at least some of the rest of the ones that we've got jotted down here because I'm so stoked that we had so many responses. I just want to at least make sure we mention some of them. One of them was actors complaining that they're tired when they signed up for a night job. Kind of not really a surprise there. Or requesting the weekend before Halloween or requesting Halloween off. Or quitting just before. It's like, really? We kind of need you right now. When actors fake a panic attack or an illness, just all around lying in general to get out of having to work, and then turning around and coming through that night. Taking excessive amount of breaks, not removing makeup, and even wearing it in the next night. That's something that some of the makeup artists had some pet peeves on. When an actor asks for an alteration in their makeup or costume, when it's kind of predetermined, like, no, this is what we've decided fits in this scene, deal with it. Don't ask for it to be different. When a cast member is given a custom created costume and then they show up in their spirit Halloween costume. Yeah, I can imagine that would be pretty annoying. Cast members that think they need to hurt themselves or destroy sets in order to do their jobs. That's probably not cool. Actors not being trained with their special prop, like chainsaws. Yeah, you probably don't want to just give a chainsaw to just anybody. And that has a little trickle up effect in management there. So yeah, that could probably get pretty annoying. Cast members coming up with their own lines and backstory without approval. A lot of your designers and stuff spend a lot of time creating a theme, and they know how everybody plays into that. So let's not mess it up. When an actor insists they can make it through the night without food or water, working in a haunted house is a pretty high intensity job. You have to take care of your body. Lots of, the appropriate amount of food and water is great. You obviously don't want to go overload on that. But that brings us to the end of our list of pet peeves. This was pretty fun coming up with all the responses and getting the response from you guys, our listeners. It was absolutely wonderful. We will do some more of this stuff in the future. If we missed one, absolutely leave us a comment on Facebook or any of the socials. That is always welcome. Brian, Tiffany, did you guys have anything, any closing comments?
Eat your vegetables and stay in school.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. I'm really excited to see people responding and giving us all this feedback. So thank you for everybody who did respond and everybody that's listening.
Yes, thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Once again, don't forget to subscribe, follow, share, like, comment, review, whatever you are able to do. We very much appreciate that, and we will see you next week here on the Scare Factor podcast. Stay scary.